chapter 5 in paragraph 7 of The Jewish War, the Jewish historian Josephus states that Yahweh's name consists of 4 vowels. Scholars debate exactly what this means, but if this is correct, then we might note that vowels often change their pronunciation depending upon what letters they're put with. For example, let us consider the English words through, cough, bow, brought, and tough. Here, the same letters OUGH are all used in each word, and yet they're all pronounced very differently, because when the overall letter combinations change, so do the pronunciations of the individual letters, but especially the vowels. The sounds of the vowels change in order to make the word softer and easier to speak. This same kind of vowel changing effect is responsible for the change from Yahoo to Yeho and back. In Hebrew, what makes a name contain the Father's name is that it begins either with a yod-he, or perhaps a yod-he-vav combination. In Hebraic thought, any name that begins with a yod-he, or a yod-he-vav combination contains the Father's name. The reason the Hellenic names Jesus and Jesus are not considered to contain the Father's name is that these names are not really Hebraic names. They're Greek ones. Further, they do not begin with a yod, a yod-he, or a yod-he-vav. Scripture also gives us 3 different spellings for Joshua the son of Nun's name. Yet all 3 of these spellings clearly refer to the name Joshua. In English, a man named William can also be named Will or Bill. A man named Richard can also be called Rich, Rick, or even Dick. It's the same man. Numbers chapter 13 and verse 8 tells us that before he was called Yehoshua, Joshua was just called Hosea or Hoshea, He, Vav, Shin, Ayin, just like the prophet Hosea. The name Hosea, actually Hoshea, means save. 8 verses later, in Numbers chapter 13 and verse 16, Moshe, or Moses, called Hoshea by a new name, Yehoshua. What Moshe did, essentially, was just to add a yod onto the front of Hoshea's name, indicating that it was Yahweh who would save through Hoshea. Notice that the pronunciation of his name automatically changed from Hoshea to Yehoshua. The yod-he-vav combination is here pronounced Yeho rather than Yahoo, because it's much softer and easier on the mouth to say Yehoshua than Yahushua. This is another example of how Hebrew is spoken all in the throat rather than the mouth, because it's just easier. Notice that the pronunciation of the Shin-Ayin combination changed from Shia to Shua, and yet the meaning remains the same, because the root of the word, Shin-Ayin, or save, remains the same. Thus, although the vowels have changed in order to make this word easier to speak, the root of the word still indicates the same thing, saving. Hebrew is a very old language, and perhaps even the original language. And Joshua's name has gone through a series of changes over the course of several thousands of years. When Moshe added a yod, or a yud, onto the front of Hoshea's name, it became 6 letters long. Yod, He, Vav, Shin, Vav, Ayin. However, because the Hebrew people prize economy of effort, Joshua's name is only spelled all the way out in this full 6-letter form twice. Some 200 other times, Yehoshua's name is abbreviated with just 5 letters: Yod, He, Vav, Shin, Ayin. In these 200 other instances, the second Vav is dropped, but the pronunciation remains the same. And since the Shin-Ayin combination remains, the root word of save is not broken. In the Middle Ages, the Masoretes added a vowel point indicating that the reader was still to pronounce the sound that the second Vav would have made, were it still physically there. We do much the same thing in English when we use apostrophes to abbreviate certain words. Words like can't or don't are called contractions. We use an apostrophe to indicate that a letter has been removed. However, Hebrew is so efficient they don't bother with the apostrophe. It is understood that the reader will pronounce the word in the softest, easiest possible manner, while still maintaining the same consonants.